Hello, I am Cameron Huddleston. I am Careful's family finance expert, and I am so excited to have Jeremy Nachtigall joining me here. Jeremy is the founder of Daily Navigator. He is a daily money manager, and he also was a financial caregiver himself. So, Jeremy, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about you, especially your own financial caregiving journey.
Sure. Cameron, first of all, thank you very much for having me here and going through this exercise. I think it's very important that we have these discussions and that we put this information out there for people to hear and learn about. So to answer your question, I'm the founder of Daily Navigator, and I'm a financial caregiver, a daily money manager. And what I do is I work with the senior community and their adult children, and I help them manage their daily logistical, administrative, and financial affairs.
And weren't you actually involved with your own parents' finances for a while too?
Yes, so in 2012, my mother was diagnosed with ALS. And for 5 years until her passing in 2017, I was on the front lines dealing with the daily minutia of caring for a loved one. During what turned out to be the last year of her life, I moved my family into her house, and I really got an opportunity to see what goes on directly day to day. And in doing so, I made the decision after she passed away that I wanted to be able to provide the same type of assistance to other families who were in similar situations.
I think that's wonderful that you turned your experience, into something where you could help others, where you could
Yes.
share what you've learned to help others. And I think that's great. But as you know, both from your own experience and working with clients, that becoming a financial caregiver, having to suddenly step in and help parents or an aging loved one with money matters can be extremely overwhelming. And I know that oftentimes one of the biggest challenges when you're starting out is just piecing together your parents' financial picture. If you're lucky, you've had these conversations, you know what sort of accounts and assets they have. But a lot of people find themselves in this role knowing nothing. And then they have to play detective. So I'm hoping you have some tips on how people can get this information. Where should they be looking? What are sources of information that they should be looking for so that they can piece together their parents' financial picture?
Sure, sure. So, what I typically do when I meet a new client is I give them a document checklist. That document checklist will include items like bank statements, what's the form of ownership, joint or individual, brokerage statements, insurance documents, tax documents. I'll also provide um, a hard asset or valuables document so that they can itemize pieces of art or jewelry, other items that have value in the home. If there's a home office in the house, it's important to go through that home office, go through the files. You're going to find information that you need. I can assure you. There's information that's been tucked away for years that you may need to reference. There are old bills that you may need to reference. Maybe there's a statement. You're going to find things if you look through the filing. If you look through the filing cabinet, your parents may have a second home. I encourage you, if you're looking for information, take a weekend, go to the second home, spend some time there, and look through things. You're going to find something. Your parents were there. They live in New Jersey and they vacation in Florida. Um, there's bound to be information in the Florida house that you may need to have with you. Look through the computer. Everybody's got documents saved in their computer. You may find information that you need in the computer. If you go in the kitchen, maybe your mother kept a calendar on the counter and she put notes on the calendar. That's what my mother did. Look at the calendar, look for notes, look for names, phone numbers, Maybe there's an account number you can find for something. If you go into the kitchen and you look at a cabinet underneath the counter, maybe there's an address book where your mother or your father kept important information, important reference numbers, something to this effect. Uh, if your parents do, in fact, live a distance from you, take a weekend, go there for a few days, have a discussion with them, let them know what you're doing, why you're doing it, what you need. Maybe they can help you. Maybe they know what a password is that you need to access something. Maybe they know where a specific document is. Maybe there's a will that they had written years ago and you don't know where that is. They might have an idea where it could be. Maybe it's in the other vacation home. You never know. Have the conversation.
Yes, definitely it does start with conversations. I know some parents can be reluctant to talk, which can be a challenge. It's interesting though. Yeah, I love your suggestion of looking at the calendar or the address book. My mom had so many notes that she would
Sure.
scribble in there as she was losing her memory with Alzheimer's disease. Um, I've certainly heard tales of wills being stashed in boxes in the
Yeah.
garage, in the attic, in a closet, and sometimes they're not even found until the parent passes away and they're getting rid of all that, cleaning out the garage, and there's a box with a will in it that no one ever knew existed.
I just experienced this with a client last week who had to go to the vacation house because there's documents there.
Yeah, you really do have to play detective, and sometimes that's your only choice. Once you though get an idea of, what's going on in your parents' financial lives, once you know what sort of assets they have, what sort of accounts they have, what sort of property they have, where do you go from there? How do you get organized? And are there some tips and tricks that you can share that can make it easier for people to help their parents manage daily money matters?
Sure, sure. I think it's very important to plan, without a doubt. You need to have a plan. Know what your income is, know what your expenses are. I recommend to my clients, and I also provide to them, or I help them with creating a spreadsheet to track tasks that need to be completed. On the spreadsheet of tasks, use subcategories, uh, items that can be done now. What are the daily tasks? Tasks surrounding the financial piece, tasks surrounding the medical piece. Categorize discussions that you need to have with your parents, um, with your siblings, with the attorney, with your financial advisor or your accountant. You know, have everything written down so you can reference it, so it keeps you in order, keeps you on track. Make sure you have a financial POA, power of attorney. Many elder care attorneys will agree that the financial power of attorney is probably the most important document to have. Why? If it comes to the point where your parents are unable to make financial decisions on their own, you're going to need the financial power of attorney in order to make that decision. If you don't have a power of attorney, what will happen is it will have to go to a court appointed guardian, which is a very expensive process. In order to avoid that, I would encourage my clients to speak with an elder care attorney to learn how to plan to prevent this type of thing from happening.
I mean, that is so key, that power of attorney. I mean, you really don't have any power to make any
Right,
transactions or decisions for your parents until you have been named that power of attorney.
correct.
And so once you and I love your tip too for like really planning and using that spreadsheet and documenting
Oh,
everything
yeah,
you need to do. I think that's great to have that there because you can reference it. I used to keep a list of all of my mom's accounts, all of her usernames, her passwords, and I actually set up a lot of those online accounts myself. Um, and I also kept her social security number
sure.
listed there because anytime I had to make a call to one of her financial institutions, I would often have to provide that social security number. So just having that document with everything there made it easy for me when I had to make those calls. But you know, and it's great to get organized, but then how do you manage the daily stuff? Because I mean, you've got plenty of parents out there who might have checking accounts at 5 different banks, savings accounts at another 5 different banks, and they've got a couple of different financial institutions where they have retirement accounts or investment accounts, and they've got, you know, all these different insurance policies, some they might not even need. How do you make it easier to stay on top of that? Because there's got to be a way to make this easier.
Look for these documents. Again, I'm dealing this with a client as we speak. His father has multiple deposit accounts, CDs at multiple banks across the country because that's what our parents used to do. Um, Multiple bank accounts in Florida, in New Jersey, uh, brokerage accounts. Consolidate these things. If you can keep them under one roof in one institution, even better. Keep it in one place so you know where to go. As far as these deposit accounts are concerned, maybe these CDs are already mature. We don't know. Gather them, gather the documents, and consolidate.
Definitely. So there's less for you to have to check in on every time you're checking in on your parents' accounts.
Correct.
I know certainly automating bill payments is going to make your life easier, um, but it might be a hard sell for parents. People might be worried about, is it safe if I put everything
Yeah,
online?
and that's typical, and I hear that more frequently than not. People don't want to automate their bill paying because they're afraid that the service provider is going to take more than they should, or it's not safe, it's going to get hacked, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think most people will agree, most professionals will agree that automating your bill paying is a very safe way to keep up with the bills and not let anything slide fall by the waysides.
Definitely, because if you've got parents who are maybe starting to experience cognitive decline, I mean, research has found that, you know, missed payments, late payments can be an issue. And this helps ensure that the electricity doesn't get turned off
Right.
because you know the bills are getting paid. I think too, you know, parents, if they're reluctant to automate their financial accounts, it's a good time to remind them, hey, you're only getting a statement once a month. If this is online, we can sit down and check these accounts every single day if you want to make sure there's nothing fishy going on. And so making your parents aware that they can keep tabs on that
Yeah.
account as often as they want might sway them to automating their accounts and automating those payments, I think.
Also, you're correct, Cameron. And the added benefit to that is when you get a bill in the mail, a paper bill, you don't just get a bill. It's not a one pager. You get the bill, there's multiple pages to the bill, you get inserts, the glossy paper that comes in the envelope too. Get rid of this stuff. You don't need it. It's just going to create confusion. So the less paper you have, obviously, the better off you're going to be, and you can do that by automating all of your bill paying.
So I'm sure you've seen in your job as a daily money manager that people are making mistakes when it comes to helping out their parents with their finances. I was hoping you could share some of the common mistakes that you see.
Sure, sure. What I've experienced is that people don't plan early enough. That's the biggest mistake you can make is taking the wait and see approach. Uh, my advice is don't take the wait and see approach. Start planning now. Have the conversations, get your professionals in line, in order, know who to go to for what issue needs to be tackled, so to speak, and start your planning. Have a conversation with your financial advisor about rebalancing your parents' brokerage accounts. Maybe they've been, in a growth model for the past 30 years. Maybe they've been more aggressive with their investments over the past number of years. And now we're at a stage in time where we really have to protect that principle, and we have to be able to use that principle to generate an income stream. it may be time to talk to your financial advisor about rebalancing that portfolio. Another mistake, like we said before, Cameron, not automating the bill paying because you're concerned about safety. I think you can throw that one out because it's a safe thing to do, and you should do it because it's just going to make your life easier overall. And I think also one of the biggest mistakes is believing that you can do it on your own. I was in a situation with my mother where I fortunately I have two sisters, and we all lived fairly close in proximity, and we were all involved, and we all had our separate tasks, and we all did different things surrounding the care of my mother. Many families don't have that. Many families don't live close to each other, or maybe there aren't enough people in the family to do all the separate tasks, to do all the various tasks. If you think you can do it on your own, you're setting yourself up for failure. And I don't think that's a good way of thinking and of tackling something like this, to think you can do it by yourself.
I agree. It's a really tough job. Being a caregiver, being a
Full-time
financial
job.
caregiver. It is. It can be full time. And when it comes to finances, a lot of us find that it's hard enough to stay on top of our own finances.
True.
If you have to manage a parent's finances in addition to your own, it can become overwhelming. And so that's why I'd like for you to share with people what you do as a daily money manager, because I think a lot of people don't even realize that this profession exists, that there are people out there who can help manage your parents' finances if they're having trouble doing it on their own.
Yes, yes. It's a relatively new field, and people don't know that people like me exist. Um, DMMs, daily money managers, bring order and clarity to your life. We can help you make major decisions that may have a financial impact, and we offer objective advice. Again, you may not have family close. You may not have a person that you can confide in, or a person that you can speak to and talk through issues. It's very important to have these conversations because these are serious decisions that will have an impact, financial and emotional. You need to have the discussions. Um, Daily money managers help to create a method to the daily administrative, logistical, and financial tasks. Uh, we're similar to a third party administrator who runs your back office. So, in financial speak, it's like having a third party administrator to run your back office.
Exactly, exactly. And I mean, you're helping clients with everything from making sure that the bills are getting paid. That I mean, are you even, negotiating with service providers? Can you get on the phone and deal with the cable company? Is that something that you can do?
So I do that, and the way if I don't have a power of attorney, where which essentially gives me permission to speak on their behalf, I'll typically get on the phone with my client, and they will verify or validate that I can speak on their behalf with regard to whatever the issue is, whether it be the electric company, maybe it's a leasing company for an automobile, it could be the telephone company, whatever it is. If I get verification from the owner, from the person who I'm helping to care for, I can also speak on their behalf and talk through issues.
Right. I mean, so really this is a very comprehensive service that you can provide. And I think a lot of people don't realize. They might say, well, my parents have a financial planner.
Right,
That person's in charge of my parents' finances,
right,
but I think people don't necessarily realize financial planners don't get involved with daily money management. They're not going to
precisely.
help clients with bill payments. They're not going to get on the phone and talk to those service providers. This is what a daily money manager can do.
Right.
And so I think anyone out there who needs help managing parents or an aging loved one's finances, this might be the person you want to turn to for that help.
Correct.
So, how can you find a daily money manager?
So if you go onto the website for the American Association of Daily Money Managers and you enter your zip code, you'll get a report of daily money managers in your state, in your local area. Now, keep in mind, there aren't a lot of us. This is a new industry, and there aren't, we're not like lawyers. There aren't hundreds of thousands of daily money managers around. So it may be difficult, depending upon where you live, to find somebody who's close in proximity. Fortunately, if there's a positive that came out of this pandemic, it's the fact that we can all communicate online via Zoom. And it has been a saving grace for people who deal with people because we're able to communicate and see each other and transfer information, etc. So, that being said, again, if you go onto the website, American Association of Daily Money Managers, you can find resources there.
And if there's not someone near you, then you could potentially reach out to someone somewhere else in your state or maybe even another state who can
Sure,
connect using Zoom or FaceTime
sure,
or whatever method they choose to work with you.
absolutely, absolutely.
Great. Great. Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for sharing with us tips on how financial caregivers can piece together their parents' financial picture, how they can get organized, how they can make their lives easier by automating and consolidating accounts, and for sharing what a daily money manager does. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Cameron. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Great. Thanks.